What's up, everyone?
Hey, everyone. Hey, nice to see you again.
Welcome back for another Design Cuts weekly community hangout. We are so thrilled to welcome Melinda Livsey. Welcome, Melinda.
Hey, Melinda.
Hey. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so great to have you with us.
Yeah, really excited for this one.
I'm so excited as well. I think this is going to be really, really useful. So everyone, I know we say this sometimes, but if you ever, we're going to have notepads at the ready.
That's right.
Make it today.
Scribble.
Because
frantic scrolling.
There's going to be a lot of actionable stuff today, and of course, you get to pick Melinda's brain after her presentation. So stay tuned for that. Before we jump into it, lovely design cutters, let us know in the comments where are you tuning in from today.
Where are you tuning in?
The usual. People all over the world, I think. Also, Melinda, we say this every time. There is a slight delay in the comments. So if you make a comment and it's dead air, like wait about 4 seconds. Sometimes it's like 8 seconds.
Oh,
and so you're like,
it's quite a big one today.
If you make a joke and then people start laughing 8 seconds later, that's why.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like that happens to me at a party. Is that an excuse?
From the USA,
Israel.
Awesome. Toronto, Canada. Look at you, international bunch.
Germany,
Orange County.
Oh, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Romania, Spain,
Brittany.
See, this is what we love about these hangouts.
I know.
People tuning in from all over.
Bulgaria.
And we've got more people showing up all the time right now. So, welcome everyone.
Romania.
Melinda, before we jump in, do you want to give a quick intro, or is that kind of woven into your presentation?
I can give a quick intro. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I originally was a brand identity designer. So I've had about, over 10 years of being a graphic designer and identity designer. And then a few years ago, I learned about brand strategy and the wonderful world of branding. And so I switched to doing brand strategy. And that's what we're mainly going to be talking about today. And I'm from Southern California, so around Orange County, LA area. And so I see some people are joining us from my area as well.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
I love it. And you've been on such a journey with your career. And I feel like, it's been taking off so much in the last year, but you're only just getting started. I feel like you are certainly someone to continue to watch in the industry. And today you're going to kind of unveil how that transformation has happened, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of my story and the steps I took. So if someone wants to follow on that journey, then hopefully I can break it down enough where they feel confident to do the same thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Shall we jump straight into it? Because I'm really excited to see this.
Me too.
Yeah,
love branding. Yeah, let's immerse ourselves.
We actually, we chatted last night. And Melinda, I think you mentioned the, which one was it? It was the, Designing Brand Identity book.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, and I just leant behind me and picked it off the bookshelf. I was like, you mean this one?
That's mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love branding and all things branding. So yeah, let's geek out.
Well, good. Yeah, I think that's most designers, right? We all love branding.
Absolutely.
So this is switching to a strategy-led branding, and we'll get into what that means and where I was before I was using strategy and what that looked like. So I do have a feedback. Do you hear that?
No, we don't. There's a potential that you've got to open in 2 tabs. That's normally the common reason for that.
Oh, I don't think I do. Man, that's okay. I think I'm okay. We'll see if it works.
Cool. Okay, let us know if it's happening, and we can get the team on it. It sounds great here. Are you hearing yourself?
Yeah,
back?
I'm hearing myself.
Yeah,
that's
quality looks good.
Okay.
It might. Yeah, we'll keep going. I think we're okay now.
Okay.
So what we're going to talk about today is why and how I went from using a questionnaire, and I'd say a questionnaire is like a brand questionnaire that you would send to a client. Oh, I am still getting feedback. That's not good.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay.
What can I do?
That's very odd. Sorry, guys. Bear with us. Yeah, I don't think it is anything from our side. You see, you definitely haven't got it open in multiple tabs. Appreciate the patience, guys. This is the nature of live.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds fine to us.
Okay, let me try. Keep going. Hopefully,
okay, I know how distracting it is when you hear yourself coming back.
Yeah.
I had that,
and it's only intermittent
recently,
too.
and it was like I can't finish a sentence because I keep.
Yeah, and it's only intermittent, so okay. Hopefully, we can keep going here. So what we're going to talk about is using a brand questionnaire. How I used to do brand identity projects is I would use a questionnaire. I'd send it to my clients ahead of time, get all the questions or answers that I needed from them, and that's how I would execute on identity. And now I use an in-person strategy workshop for branding projects. And there's a lot of pros and cons to both, and we're going to get into the deepness of all of it. So with the questionnaire, just explain what that was in more depth. It was a series of questions I used to learn about my client's brand, their audience, what they want in design. So like taking their order, what do you want? What do you want it to look like? Especially if it was a logo or a design like that, where they had a vision of what they wanted. I just asked them, like, tell me what you're picturing. And usually it was emailed, and it was used as kind of like homework for a client, or used as a form on, I've seen it used as a form on other people's sites. And sometimes I have actually used it. So if someone came to my website, wanted, let's say, a logo, a brand identity, they would fill out all the things that they wanted, and then I would give them a quote. And so that's another way that I've seen it used. And so this is actually a screenshot of a questionnaire that I used to use. It was in a Google Doc. And so I would just send this over to my client and have them fill it out for whatever design project we had. And that was typically brand identity that I would do. So now what I would do to start off a brand identity project is using more of a brand strategy workshop. So that's something where, if you guys have heard of the term a strategic framework, so having a process very similar to a questionnaire of you have a certain series of questions you ask. And so it's a process. You use this to uncover key insights about a client's brand and ideal clients. And you determine what deliverables should be built for the brand that align the goals with the goals of the company. So you're not just assuming that they need a logo. You're saying, like, a brand is more than a logo. I think we all know that. And so we know that there are so many more things that could connect a brand and a business to their ideal client that go beyond just a logo. And so a brand strategy workshop helps to uncover those things. Usually it's done, the way I do it, it's done in a 1 to 2 day in-person workshop. I do them remote too. And then I give them a PDF of insights afterwards. And then we go into the brand identity or any design that we'd be doing after that. And just to break it down too, because I know when I first heard about brand strategy or strategy in general, it was so vague and so nebulous that I didn't know how to wrap my head around it. And so I did want to break it down a little bit, and I have some diagrams for that too, because diagrams always help, visuals. So I just wanted to break down what it really is. And so strategy in general is just a plan from point A to point B. So what brand strategy would be is getting a brand from point A to point B. And usually that is point A is the brand, and point B is to get them to their ideal client and connect them. And it's almost like matchmaking. You want to create a brand that is going to be attractive and delight this ideal customer or client. And so we want to do all these things and create this brand that the ideal client's going to like. So I think of it as matchmaking. And the strategy process uncovers the why behind the brand. So you get so much deeper in this than you would if you used a questionnaire. And its purpose is to uncover what needs to be built to get this business to its goal, which is to usually get more customers or open up a different market, or there's tons of different goals that a business could have and why they might use this. And it's very goal focused, whereas the questionnaire, not necessarily, and we'll get into what that looks like too. But if you see this chart, a lot of us as designers, we live in the deliverable land, like the peak of this pyramid. And underneath it, we have a couple other things that need to be done or thought about before a deliverable is built. So we have the deliverable at the top is what the customer sees, it's outward facing, but there's a bunch of stuff underneath it that we have to build. So the foundation of what a brand is built on. And so we talk about brand strategy as like the foundational piece of what needs to be done. And this is seen internally. Like nobody's going to see the actual underpinnings, the plan, the strategy outside of the business. It's only inside that they would see that. And then up from there is what I call project and creative strategy. And that's also seen in the business. And then if you go one more layer up, that's where the deliverables live. And so what happens is if you're working on brand strategy and you're really getting to the core of who a brand is, you're going to be dealing with things more like positioning, mission statement, all like overarching brand direction. You'll be talking about the user personas. And then as we go up this pyramid, just to show you the progression and how I'm orienting where Questionnaire would be and where I used to live is, up here just doing brand identity. You actually get to the deeper part of the business if you work on brand strategy. So the deliverables, or we'll go to the project and creative strategy, that's more like creative briefs. The questionnaire is more like a creative brief. We're trying to get a brief of what we're supposed to create. And so that's where the questionnaire used to live in this area. But as you see, the foundation of the brand lies in brand strategy. And then up here, the deliverables, those things are logos, identity, website, any tangible deliverables. And
when I see this diagram, Melinda, it's making me think of either an iceberg or maybe a volcano. In that, a lot of the good stuff is actually below the surface, both in terms of revenue opportunities and business impact. And what you just alluded to is so common, and I'm sure it is for many people tuned in today. They are effectively just scratching the surface
for sure
with what they're doing with the design deliverables, and they're missing out on the bigger picture that's available to them.
Slowly working towards that bottom area, I found as a designer was where things got more and more interesting.
Oh, yeah. And that's where you're saying it gets more interesting. You're actually getting to the core of why this business even exists. And that's why I put the why here. So if you are focusing on brand strategy, you're digging in really, really deep, so much deeper than if you were to just give a questionnaire to a client, because they only can think so deep without someone else coming in and asking them a question. And really, you have to be in a conversation to get that deep core answer. And so we put, that's the why. And then the how is like, how are we going to implement what we've uncovered about the brand? And that's why this section would be more of the how. And then the what, those are the deliverables. And so that's kind of how it breaks down in my own brain for me to understand and orient myself. Like, what am I doing now? And where was I before? And I feel like this at least accurately shows where the foundation lies, and then where most designers, as well as myself, we were living up here, and we were only giving so much value to our client when we lived up there, only because they might have this huge goal, but nobody's even asking them about it. And nobody's asking them, and they're just saying, oh, you want a logo? Cool, I'll make you one. But we don't ask them, do you really need it? Why do you need this logo? What is this aligned with your core mission and your positioning? And there's so much that we can uncover. And it's really fun to get in that. And I didn't even realize that as a designer, I could. I didn't even think that was allowed. It just didn't even dawn on me.
Yeah, and when you're only dealing with the what, I think so many designers, especially juniors, have complaints about the client being controlling or leading when they should be trusting in their expertise. And I guess when you start getting more into the how, and especially the why, by nature, that's going to let you lead a project more, as opposed to a client just saying, well, here's the what that we need. Now go build that for us.
Yeah. And I want to say too, there's nothing wrong if a designer does not want to do brand strategy. If they want to live in deliverable land, that's totally fine. And we need people. We need people that do just execute and are very good at their craft. However, I would suggest that people know that this exists and that their deliverable should be aligning with whatever strategy the business has, or whatever strategy the brand has, so that everything is aligned towards a goal. So as a designer, if I never did brand strategy, I would at least want to know about it, so I could ask my client, hey, is there a reason why we're doing this rebrand? Is there a reason why you need a website, so that we can make sure that it's going to get you to whatever goal that you're trying to achieve? And so at least as a designer to know this.
And I guess there's a financial benefit as a designer slowly moving down towards the brand strategy piece, because the perception as a client would be that is more important and is more valuable.
Definitely. Yeah. And we'll get into that too, prices,
Awesome.
And my own prices being raised too, because I added this. Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up. Some examples of my own brand strategy process, just to give a quick overview. I won't go too in depth of what that looks like, but we do talk about business goals. We talk about a 30,000 foot view of where is their revenue currently coming from, so different markets. And so we'll just take a look at their entire business there. And then we do customer profiles. We talk about the customer's goals and problems, the journey of what does the relationship look like between the customer and the brand. We talk about the brand, the attributes, the story, their competition, archetypes. And then we lay out an actual plan and priorities of what do they need to do first in order to get to the goals that we had outlined. So that might be, they might need to rebrand, they might need to update their website, they might need to redesign all of their keynotes. And so we list out all of those things and then help plot out a timeline for them. Usually it's around 3 months that I personally do. So I'll plot out the next 3 months for them of these are the deliverables that need to be made and when we should work on them, if that's me or if I end up referring them somewhere else. But the beauty of this is they're pretty much paying you to come up with a proposal at this time. So you've done all this work of uncovering the why, uncovering the positioning, uncovering who the brand is, who's the customer. And then you're working on, well, what makes most sense for us to invest in moving forward? So they're paying for you to come up with a proposal with them on the spot, which is really great. Instead of going back to your computer, writing out a whole scope of work when you haven't asked maybe enough questions that you should, and coming back and giving them this proposal that they're like, oh, this is too much money. Why would I do this? But when you do it in a workshop, you actually are building the proposal with them because it's what makes most sense for them to get to their goals.
So we've got a couple of people asking if you charge for this work. I would say put most of the questions, if you could, guys, in the ask a question feature just below this live stream. But Melinda, I know you've got a very good answer for this.
Yes, I do. And I'll break it down for you guys too of how I started charging for this phase, because I didn't always, and how I worked up to charging $10,000 for just this phase alone with no design. So
yeah,
yes.
I could see people in the comments they're worried that this is a lot of work for free.
It is.
I think was the perception.
No, that's not where we're going with it, I think.
Definitely. This is where the magic happens. People,
absolutely. And the client's perception of this work is that it's really valuable work.
Yes. Yes. And they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay that much because of what they're going to get out of it. And I know, Tom, we had talked yesterday too of one of the big benefits of doing this is that the client gets focus, clarity, and a roadmap to their goals. And as a business owner, how much is that worth to you?
Absolutely.
It's insane, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's not.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's not just asking questions in order to design what we're going to design for them. It's helping them get clarity. So there's a big difference between the questionnaire and doing a strategy workshop.
Clarity as a business owner isn't always the easiest thing to find, and you're always looking for return on investment, return on time, and the quickest way to get to your end goals. So this work is so important.
Exactly. Yeah. So that question led perfectly into this section where, which is, I would say we're going on, 2.5, 3 years ago, I was using a questionnaire. That phase of research, and if you want to call it strategy, I did not charge for. I just baked it into my process. And now I am charging $10,000 for brand strategy. So yes, I am charging now, so no one has to worry about the free work. And then to talk about the design questionnaire, I was offering it mainly with my branding services, and I would use it as homework, like I had mentioned. I included it as part of my branding package. And at that time, I was charging around $6,500 for branding. So just giving you context of, where I was then. Now I have ditched the questionnaire and I charge separately for brand strategy. I make identity its own service. I'm actually dropping identity now. I'm not offering it at all. I'm only offering this portion of it, of branding. But I used to do identity and then I had put them in 2 different phases. So it was brand strategy was its own service. And then what's really nice is I have contact now with the CEO, the CMO, the CFO, all the C-suite, and the key decision makers. So are you guys still there? Your video went off.
Yeah.
We're here. We're just wrapped.
We're mesmerized.
We are. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
By the way, is the feedback better for you now?
Oh, okay.
Melinda, is the feedback better
yes.
for you?
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
much better.
Cool.
Happy days. I
Amazing.
didn't want you to be powering through.
Yeah. Like finish the call and be like, whoa.
Thank you. No, we're good. We're good. Yeah. I don't know what that was. Very strange.
We just do it to kind of keep you on your toes.
Make sure I'm awake.
On the microphone.
Oh, so funny. Some pros and cons of both, because there are pros and cons of both sides. The pros of a questionnaire, it's quick and easy. At least it was for me. It was baked into my process. It was something that I didn't have to think about. I knew the questions I needed to ask. I was used to it. There's something very comforting about something that you're just used to and familiar with. And I got predictable results. I knew the questions I needed to ask to get the info I needed to then design what I needed to design. There's a lot of cons though. It was homework for my clients. So they, and to us, we don't think that might not be a big deal, but to a client who doesn't have much time to do homework and think through this on their own is a lot of work. And it might be even more work for them to do that than if you were to sit down with them in a workshop and ask them these questions. And then it puts you in that position of being an order taker, or what I call a design slave, where you just ask what someone wants and you try to execute what they're asking you for. And to me, in my own experience, it lacked the depth of design, because I only was getting surface level information, and that would only yield surface level design. And the client it wasn't always what the client needed. It was just what they asked for. And so I wasn't digging in enough to make sure that it aligned with their goals. And in general, it attracted lower paying clients and projects. So, a big company would look at that and be like, oh, you're just a small freelancer if you're sending me this questionnaire. That's how I was perceived, at least, or felt that I was perceived that way. And it didn't open the door to more work. So it just ended there. They hired me for brand identity and it stopped right there. Whereas you'll see the pros of brand strategy workshop is I'm seen as a consultant, so a partner versus an order taker. So instead, I'm coming alongside of my client. They see me more as an expert now than someone to just take orders. So I'm actually helping to plan out even when the project should be built versus them telling me, hey, I need this ASAP. I need this next week. I'm telling them, hey, based on your goals, this is when we should start all of these different projects. It builds trust with the client. It reveals insights that the client didn't know. That's huge. To show yourself as a consultant and an expert, those types of people are ones that show the client or tell them back what they just had heard from their client, but connect some dots for them, that the client goes, oh my gosh, I should have seen this. This was so obvious. But you were the one that was able to come in and notice it, because you're outside of their business and you're asking really good questions. That is extremely valuable to our clients. And you can't really do that with a questionnaire. And then better design came out of it. So like I said earlier, there was surface level design for a questionnaire, and now the design was so much better. It was so much more connected to the stories of my clients and their brands. And then there was this was unexpected, less revisions and more objective. So when there were revisions, it was much more objective versus subjective, like people saying, well, I don't like the color blue, so don't make it blue. You don't get that anymore, because everything is done for a purpose and it's going towards a goal. And then you have less time doing and more time thinking, which I really like, thinking about things and plotting things and having a reason for things as well, and not just tinkering all the time and going in circles and designing. I like to have a purpose. So that actually gave that to me.
And this is super smart for any project, even beyond design, because I know at Design Cuts right now, we've had many group discussions and we started allocating much more time to the planning phase.
For sure.
Because even though it could seem almost overkill with like getting that granular and in-depth with planning, it just exponentially saves you time and further issues down the line.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you've got we've got these problems. What's the easiest way that we can leverage what we've got to get solutions for those problems? Because sometimes you can't even see what's staring you in the face until you literally just stop and take the time to do it. And as a business owner, it's actually sometimes quite difficult to stop and take that time.
Yeah, you're in the weeds.
You are, aren't you?
And this is what it does for your client. It helps them to just slow down, take a step back. Let's look at it from a bird's eye point of view, and you're helping them and you're looking at it together. You're asking really good questions. And the beauty of it too is I can come in with little to no research done on the client because I'm going in asking really good questions. And then I won't come in with assumptions or a bias or anything, because I'm like, I'm just here to learn and make sure that I fully understand who you are and where you're going, who you're trying to attract. And so I like coming in not having too much context, because then I can come in just totally blank, like a blank slate, so that I can ask the right questions coming in too. And then you can see it's like having an outside perspective. You know, the client needs that. And you start poking holes in things and saying, oh, well, is that really where you should use that resource? Maybe it would be better used here. So yeah, it really helps. Nice. Yeah, there's even more pros of the strategy workshop. You're able to sell it separately. It took me a while to get there, and I'll show my path to getting there. But able to sell it separately. It was a more collaborative approach, which I really enjoyed too. And again, it reduced all the numbers of revisions, but not only that, it reduced the number of options I showed. So when I was doing logos, doing it with this process, I only showed one logo option.
That's a great
because we had worked our way to the idea. Everyone in the room goes, well, yeah, it is supposed to be that. They weren't caught off guard. They weren't surprised, because we had done all this work together, that by the time I showed the logo, they're like, well, yeah, this totally makes sense because of everything else we've already talked about. That was an unexpected thing that happened too.
No, I absolutely love that one, because showing your client like 3 or 4 variations of a logo to me just shows you haven't done the background research you need to say, well, actually, based on your audience, based on the brand, based on your needs, et cetera, this is what we need to do. Exactly.
Yeah. And if you want to do a lot of options, cool. Do that away from the client. Have all of your logo options, and then you decide, like you had said, based off your research, based off who the target audience is, what is the most viable option? What's the most useful option that you see it working best? And usually there is one that we know. It's like, this one is what it should be. So just show it. And the thing is too, you want to help reduce the amount of decision-making the client needs to do. So that also will definitely help them, because they're like, I don't know, there's so many options. All of them are good. They could all work. And you just want to get them to make a decision and move forward so they can get to their goal. And then it was more valuable to the client overall. I mean, they always got way more value out of this, because we were exploring the brand as a whole versus just tunnel vision into one little deliverable. And then it increased revenue for myself, definitely, and for my clients. So I was actually seeing what a difference it was making in my own clients' businesses. And then like I had said before, it opened the door for many more deliverables. And I wanted to put in here too, messaging was a big thing that it opened up for myself to offer. I never thought, as someone who always designed visuals, that I would be offering messaging ever. And so I actually found a love for writing messaging. And this is one of the projects I had worked on that was one of my first strategy projects. And we came out with a bunch of messaging lines for her translation business. And I realized, oh my gosh, I love to write messaging, where that doesn't have to be every designer's story, because I know a lot of people who do branding who actually go and hire a copywriter to do messaging. But I found a love for that. And so that's what doing brand strategy actually opened the door for many other deliverables. And this was a huge one. And it was an unexpected one that I realized when I was doing it. So this was for a cork handbag company. So we used the idea of cork and champagne. So when she had her launch party, we said, it's party time. We've supplied the cork and the champagne. And then in her packaging, we have used that before. It says, we've supplied the cork, you bring the champagne. And so there was just so many fun things that came out of that workshop that they would not have happened if I just gave my client a questionnaire and then went away in my corner and did my thing and came back. It wouldn't have had this level of complexity and just connection to my own client if I were to do that.
Amazing.
There are some cons. I don't know if you guys had any questions before.
No, I mean, but I think both Tom and myself absolutely love copywriting, so we can completely resonate with that, because it's one of the most enjoyable things that I do is writing copy. So, so yeah, it's so creative, isn't it? It's just another outlet.
It's challenging.
It is, but that's part of the enjoyment, I find.
Really. You can spend a whole day on like nailing a headline.
Absolutely.
We've had moments
stuff off
where
each other
we're
constantly, don't we? Just like
I love it. We've had moments at Design Cuts where we're like Oscar Wilde or something, and we've also had moments where. Did you ever watch Friends back in the day?
Not fully, but yes, I've seen
Chandler
it,
goes into advertising, and he's like, "Cheese, it's milk. You chew." I remember that. We've had those. That's like our best line. We've had those moments too. We're like, okay, not feeling it.
Yeah. Well, and what's so interesting, what I found really interesting too, is in a workshop, when you're talking with your client, a lot of times they're going to repeat catchphrases. They're going to repeat. There's just something they always say, or they have a way of talking. And I realized the brand needs to talk like this, like the founder. Like this is who actually, if it's very connected to the founder story, then a lot of times what the client says turns into messaging headlines. So what I call hero messaging, it's like the jumping off point for all copywriting is we just have a bunch of lines that the copywriter could pull from as inspiration. And a lot of times they're just things my client had said in the meeting, and I just caught them. And I would repeat them back to my client, at a different meeting, and they go, "Oh, where did you come up with that?" And I said, "You said it. You said it." And they go, "Really? That's brilliant." I'm like, "I know, right?" But they just needed someone to capture that. And so a lot of the messaging, yes, I do write, but at the same time, I also listen really well to my clients and pull out what I call the golden nuggets that can be used throughout the brand and really give it life and soul. Because the founder and their why, the reason why they're doing what they're doing, that's the soul of the company. And so we want to infuse the brand with the soul of the founder. So especially if they're very passionate.
In the office.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so many things. Yes. Yeah. And then it's fun to then go back to the client and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's what I said. That's brilliant." And they feel that much more connected to their own brand. And I've noticed that the more motivated and connected someone is to their brand, they will execute on things. They will actually get to their goals. They're not just going to get the plan and then let it die. They're like, "I'm so excited. I need this to come to life."
For sure.
So there are some cons of strategy. It is very difficult at first to sell it. So I get this question all the time. How do you sell brand strategy? And that is such a good question. And it takes some mindset shifts if you're very used to just selling deliverables, as in someone comes to you for a logo, someone comes to you for brand identity or website. It's really easy to just fall into selling the deliverable. Whereas when you're selling strategy, you're pretty much selling the client on their goal and saying strategy is a way for us to get there. And it is a completely different thought process. And so it is very difficult to learn how to sell for someone who's not used to it. It is too expensive for some clients, or they at least perceive it as too expensive, or they just don't understand the value of it. The initial investment to learn it can be expensive, and to the implementation time too. So it took me a while, and I'll show my progress too, or my process and how I did it. But it can take a lot for a designer to spend the time and money to learn it. And then it can also exhaust introverts. So if you don't like to meet with people, I know a lot of creatives who just like to hide behind their computer and their email, and they never want to get on phone calls or video calls, or God forbid, meet anyone in person. This can really exhaust introverts. So a day after a workshop or two, I can't talk to anybody. Like I am just spent after that, because I'm working so hard in the meeting, but also I'm having that interaction with people. So that can very much exhaust me. And then it requires designers to adjust or redo their process. So for me, I already had a process. I knew how to design. I knew what questions I needed to ask. And it really disrupted my entire business, because I had to relearn how I was going to use brand strategy, but also how was I going to use it to inform the brand identity that I do. So the cons of strategy too, the more of them, it takes a commitment. You actually have to, if you're going to do this, like you got to commit and just go for it. It is expensive to buy a strategy framework to learn from. Like I said, the initial investment is a lot, and it's intimidating to start. Some people just want to, like, let me just see if this is going to be something I want to do. But if you really are committed to it, it can be intimidating. Even after people learn how to do brand strategy, I've heard many people, they'll sit on that knowledge for a year and they don't take action. And that's sad, because it can be so valuable for yourself and for your client. So this is the last part of this. I wanted to talk about how to transition to strategy from a questionnaire. If you're thinking right now, I definitely want to do this, how can I do this? I want to share my journey, and that might encourage you to do this as well. So where to start? You want to make a decision that you want to transition into strategy. Just be all in. Know that is your goal. So you might want to do some research first. You might want to tinker around in some books. So we had talked about a few books: How to Launch a Brand by Fabian Guy Halter, Designing Brand Identity by Alina Wheeler. And that was the one Tom had on his bookshelf. Those are some really good books to start with. Just go online, find some. There's Fabian Guy Halter was on The Future. He had some videos on that. Just learn about it and what it is, and see if that's something you might be interested in. But once you decide, once you're like, I'm going to do this, make a firm decision that you're going to do it. Because if you're only half in, you're going to waste a lot of time learning, but then not implementing. You can learn a strategy framework. There's a ton online. There's even one for free. It's at giveall.io. So if you just want to check out a framework and a process you could go there. There's a couple others. The Future has one. Fabian Guy Halter has one called eResonate. There's tons. There's tons online. I'm getting emails from people all the time about different frameworks out there. And you can ease it into offering it as a service. So you can do a few for free before you sell it. And then an alternative, if you're just like, okay, I can't go fully all in right now, you could just take a baby step and ask those questions from your questionnaire over the phone to your client or in person. So just take what you already have. So if you don't want to just go crazy all in, just take what you have and then use it in person. So get used to asking questions and maybe going deeper with asking those questions to your client, either in person or on the phone. And then I just wanted to show this. This is my progression to $10,000. So the first step was I didn't charge anything for the questionnaire. Step 2 was I learned strategy. And between every step, I want to say there was about a 3 month, roughly. I mean, there was some overlap, but 3 months between every step. So I learned how to do brand strategy. I learned it with some friends who were also wanting to learn at the same time. I offered 5 strategy workshops for free. I hunted down past clients. I had a family member I did it for that had a business. I had this other friend that I knew. I would just offered it to anyone. I said, hey, I learned this new thing. I think it could be really, really helpful for your business. Can I do it? I heard that you have this goal and I would love to help you get there. And they were like, well, yeah, sure. The only time where it was difficult was if someone didn't have the time to devote to it. But I was able to work it out. I did some of them over coffee with friends. So I didn't make it this big ordeal. Like we have to go rent a meeting room and we have to have a whiteboard and get all the things. I just brought my laptop. We sat in a coffee shop and I went through the whole thing with them and it still worked fine. It just was enough for me to get used to doing it. Then step 4 was I sold strategy for $1,000, and I did include some design in there because I didn't know yet how do I sell it separately from brand identity. And then I sold it for $2,500.
You factored it into the overall cost there.
Yes. Yeah.
But you broke it down. You're like, did you break it down for the clients? You're like, this much for the strategy.
I broke it down. Yeah, I think I broke it down into phases and showed like this. Sure. We're going to do strategy, and I still told them, hey, we're going to do a different process than what you're probably used to. Yeah. But yeah, I broke it down.
Love it. Did you do a happy dance after selling strategy for the first time?
Oh, I was so excited. Except that one. Awesome. I spent about 12 hours with the client because it was science-based too. And so they were using a ton of jargon. And so I had to keep asking them questions. So it was 12 hours over the course of a few weeks. And we met, different meetings.
One. I know. In a deep one.
Your first strategy client is Sheldon Cooper.
But what was great about it was I thought, well, I gave way more value than $1,000. So then I was like, I got to up my price. And so I did to $2,500. And then I realized, oh, I gave way more value than $2,500. I got to up my price. And then it went up to $5,000. And then from there, it went up to 10. And so as I kept doing it, I was over delivering and realizing, oh, I need to up the price. They're seeing how valuable it is to the client. And that gave me more confidence as I went. So this is not based on value-based pricing at this point. So I just wanted to also put that caveat if people are also learning value-based pricing. This was just me building my confidence and seeing the value that it's producing for my client.
I love it. And I know when we chatted yesterday, I don't want anyone to think, I mean, clearly this is not an overnight success story. But some of these stages, in fact, all of them really took tremendous amounts of work. And that learning strategy, you really did go all in. When we heard your story yesterday, you immersed yourself in it. And you mentioned learning with friends. I think you said that stage was 6 months of having a weekly call with them, like a mastermind where you all helped each other out and had questions. So it's like, if you're going to learn something, it doesn't happen by magic. You put the work in.
Right. There was about 4 to 5 of us in that group. And then maybe one other that I met with separately. And we met with each other for about 6 months every week, sometimes 2 to 3 hours, because we were running this, we were practicing on each other, but then also showing, hey, I just did this free, because it kind of overlapped when I was doing free workshops. And even when I was selling step 4 and 5, I was still meeting with that group. And I would bring back the document that I had. And I said, hey, this is what came out of strategy. This is what happened. I don't know, the question that I asked here, it didn't get a good answer. What should I have done? So we were able to not only practice it on each other, but we were also able to just learn together and show like, hey, this is what just happened in my client meeting. What would have you done? Or can I see your document? And it was so helpful.
So you could shortcut by learning from their mistakes, as it were.
Yes, definitely.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so some tips, if you're interested in doing this, once you're comfortable with whatever you've learned, your framework, then learn to sell it separately from deliverables. And like Tom said, it's not an overnight process. I believe that this process for me took, I want to say maybe 9 months to get to 10,000. This was me laser focused on, I am going to do this. And so I had even shared with Tom, I had 4 months of no clients coming in, like no new clients. I had older clients, but no new ones were coming in while I was doing this. So I would say up to that $1,000 project broke my 4-month dry streak.
Wow.
So
you were basically not, you weren't focused on getting new work, and you were focused on pivoting your business and educating yourself. And when we talked yesterday, I mean, it was very inspiring because you were so committed to this and had so much faith in it. You were getting in credit card debt, eating through savings, not the easiest path, but obviously you were confident in the outcome that you kind of
fully committed.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily something I would suggest people doing.
So guys, get a credit card. And
So
step number 0, get loads of credit cards at this point, piling the money.
Better yet, step 0, get a loan shark.
Loan shark.
Legal disclaimer, do not get a loan shark.
Well, Melinda said, I'm like, no, I can't say that. Just sharing my story. But learning how to sell it separately from deliverables. So it took me, I sold it separately from deliverables on its own with no design at $5,000. So it took me months it was probably 6 months in all, 5 to 6 months to learn how to sell it separately. And I was jumping for joy when that happened because I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Awesome.
Shout out, we've just been joined by Ian Padgett as well.
Oh my gosh, Ian.
The logo geek himself.
Wow.
So Ian, awesome. I'd be very intrigued to hear in the comments if you're looking to explore more of a brand strategy thing in future.
That's so awesome. All my friends are here. And then just a couple more tips. Just start once you decide, don't delay. Once you've decided that, just go for it. And then you're going to learn also that you're going to have to reposition yourself as an expert. So you might have to rebrand. You might have to change some of your own messaging, how you market yourself, what you do there is going to be different. I noticed too that it was better for me to then put out thought pieces. So a lot of writing then, a lot of speaking at this point, because I actually had so many more results than just talking about like, hey, I did this logo for a client. Like I can talk about things that I've uncovered with the business, the goals that they're trying to get to, how we have so many more deliverables that come out of this strategy session than just a logo. So it gives you the opportunity to have something to talk about finally, and to actually write thought pieces or speak on the subject too. And then learning brand strategy, like we had said, it's much easier with friends. And it would be ideal to have a good friend do brand strategy on your own business, because being in the client's position, in the client's shoes, you can feel what they're going to feel. And you can be like, gosh, I don't feel understood. Or I really wish I had a designer that would have asked me these certain questions. It's really, really good to be in the client's position and know what it feels like to be the client. And then know, like, we can't lead anyone anywhere we have not been ourselves. So I always suggest to do this. And it's, like we said, easier with friends. So that's it.
Amazing. Inspirational stuff.
Really cool. Normally we wait until the end, but I'm going to give a little round of applause. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to stop.
So cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Thank you, Melinda.
You're welcome.
So we've actually got quite a few questions that have come in. And looking at the time, are you happy to go quickfire?
Yes,
because
let's do it.
We're not very good at quickfire. I don't know if you are. We could talk about this stuff forever.
I don't read very quickly, but see how we do.
Yeah, well, we can try it. Sorry, I realized my presentation was a lot longer than I.
It's great. It was honestly, Melinda, it was fantastic. It was really, really inspirational.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's stopped ordering it by the number of votes, which is annoying. So I'm going to start right at the bottom here. James says, what is the best way to sell a strategy towards clients with a low budget? Try to... Oh, no, he's disappeared. Okay. Sorry, it's playing ball now.
Brilliant.
We're so professional today.
Yeah, we are.
What's the best way to sell strategy towards clients with a low budget? Trying to convince them the value and importance of strategy is often very difficult.
Oof, yeah. Don't ever convince. If you're convincing and you're selling, not good. Don't do that. So I would suggest that you look at Jonathan Stark, listen to everything Jonathan Stark puts out. He talks about value-based pricing, but he uses 3 questions: why this, why now, why me? And go listen to him, but don't convince. That's my quick answer.
Yeah, and you gave a slightly longer answer. Melinda was actually on the Honest Designers show yesterday, so listen to that full episode, which is going to be out hopefully this month. If you're interested in strategy, because you went super in depth in that. We even had a bit of role play where I think you were not trying to sell to Dustin, who was proving to be a difficult customer. So,
very, very difficult. I think towards the end though.
Yeah, it was. It's a great answer because you're almost getting the client to qualify themselves for you rather than pandering and being desperate to them and like, please buy my services kind of thing.
Yeah. And I also want to add, sell the problem or the goal, not your service. So you're really selling the client on their goal, and that then you don't have to convince anyone of anything.
Okay, so Gali asks, I feel I got a grip on the questions relating to the brand and personas, but I'm getting stuck in the marketing positioning aspect. Can you recommend a framework that can help with those aspects? Also, which books would you recommend reading?
Marketing, gosh, I don't have any framework for that. I would just read a lot of marketing books. So Seth Godin has a lot of really good books. This is Marketing came out recently. And then Donald Miller, The Story Brand, Building a Story Brand. That's another really good one to learn. I think he has I would say probably Story Brand would be the best framework for that. And then there was a second question, or was that the only one?
You've kind of answered them both in one. Books? Yeah, you've answered them both in one, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and to be honest, like as much as books help, just get out there and learn by doing.
Yeah,
I think that's what Melinda's done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also, little plug, but we've got like a new podcast launching that myself and Mike Jander are doing called Biz Buds, which it should be launching in the next couple of weeks. And we go very deep into the business side, relationship marketing and all that kind of thing, like how to woo the clients.
And if you guys are wondering how Tom does all this, there's actually a clone of him, several now within.
I was going to add.
It's really useful.
This is why I'm sick right now, people.
Yeah.
So We've got another question. Will it be available afterwards, this presentation? It will. All of these go in our Learn section and on our YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. Megan says, any tips for a company or person working with a company who has a lot of the assets and deliverables already made, but is looking to refresh and refigure their strategy, if that makes sense?
I don't know what the question would be, but just to add on top of that, you can still do brand strategy, even if a company already has fine design and there's nothing wrong with the visuals, because a lot of times they might not even be showing up where the ideal client is at, or using the deliverables where they should be, or connecting with the ideal client. So I don't know what the question was there, but I just wanted to add
I think that's the answer, essentially. Nailed it.
Yes. Carrie asks, how do you qualify leads for the workshop?
So I would going back to those 3 questions from Jonathan Stark. Why this? Why do you need to rebrand right now? Why now? Why can't you wait 6 months? You can ask the client this in the sales meeting. And then why me? So out of all the designers, that you're going to pick, that I'm a pretty expensive option, why would you pick me? If they have satisfactory answers for all 3 of those, that you think, okay, this is a really good idea to be doing this project right now. It's a good idea to do this project versus something else, and they do actually want to work with me, then you might want to move forward with them. And so those are the 3 qualifying questions that I use. Budget also, if they are unable to invest $10,000 at minimum with me, then I would be unable to take them on. I also offer a consulting hour too, if maybe they're not that spot yet. But usually it's budget, and then is the project a good idea? Is it worth it? Is it high risk for them? Is it high value? It's a high value thing.
That's quite interesting, really, because you're actually saying you want to work with people who are invested in it and who actually will bring results as well, because obviously you don't want to work with someone who isn't fully invested in the situation, because what do you get of that, in terms of your business?
Exactly. Yeah. And I want to bring value. So if it's not if I don't see that it's going to come with an outcome of value to them, then I think I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to I don't want to take your money if it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And isn't it liberating to be able to say that? It's both sides. Like
you don't
has
need
to
this
be a
service.
good fit for them
absolutely.
and for you. And to be able to walk away and go, I'm not sure it is the right fit. Rather than being completely desperate for anything that comes along.
For sure. Good position to be in.
So another question from Kerry. He says, do you use a cheat sheet when you're in the workshop? So what I'm picturing here, Melinda, is you with a Sharpie on your forearm. Must answer.
No, it's all smudged.
I keep referencing the framework. So I do have a framework I go through. So some of them have charts that we have to fill in. They have questions on them. There's graphs. So really that I would say is my cheat sheet. And it's really a way for me to take my notes and use it as prompts. But other than that, I've done it so many times. I know what to ask and beyond what I already have in that framework. And so I usually have it on my Keynote, and I either hook it up to an HDMI, so on the TV, or I actually write it out on a whiteboard. But I know it, like I could run it right now with nothing, just give me a marker and a whiteboard and we could do it, or a piece of paper, because I know it so well now, and I know what I need.
Have you got an hour to kill?
Let's do it. Do you have $10,000?
Are you the right fit?
Good answer.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Is this worth it?
Yeah, Melinda, we want to work with you, please.
Yeah. We're coming into the office.
We'll buy you an extra margarita at Creative Sound.
Oh, that'll be payment enough. So the F's us. How did you manage to appear on The Future with Chris Do? In your early shows with Chris, you appeared to be somewhat in the dark about brand strategy, and now you come across as an expert. It's refreshing, and I'd love to know how you grew in your confidence. Again, this is just my perception, seeing your early appearances to where you are now.
Yeah, I had no clue. Oh my gosh. Well, to answer the first question about how did I get on, I was engaging with Chris's content. So whoever you follow, if you're learning from them, engage with their content, comment, ask questions. They put it out there and it's valuable. Like, we might as well interact with it, right? So I just wanted to put that in there. So like, Tom, you post a lot. Go on Tom's Instagram right now and go get all of the value from it, but then also comment on it. That's what I did with Chris's content. he had posted some logo studies and how to get better at logo design. And I thought my business would get better if I just refined my craft more, if I just got better at logo design. So I was doing the logo studies and I kept doing them and posting my work in the comments. And this was on Facebook. And he reached out to me and said, who are you? Why are you doing these studies? You obviously don't need to do them because they were really good, because I put the time into it. I wanted to make sure they were good and be the best. And then we got to chatting and he's like, do you have time to Skype right now? And so we ended up chatting. He asked me about my business and he gave me free coaching right on the spot. And then he called me the next week and checked up on me and said, hey, how are those things going that I told you to do? And then checked up on me again. And then by, I think, the fourth call, he had said, well, what are your thoughts about being on YouTube? We can just film these coaching sessions live. And all I ask is that you're utterly honest, and you show up and you're utterly honest, and people can learn from your journey. And if you implement things as I tell you. And I said, sure, I'll do that. So as I got on the show and I learned from him, I realized, getting better at my design is not going to get me more clients. What? And then he had said to me, the missing piece for you is brand strategy. And that I think if you learn that, things are going to click for you. And they did. So there was a hard shift. If you notice, there was about a 6-month break I took between the time of filming the first 8 episodes and then up to when I came back for the 9th. I totally pivoted because that was during the time, that 6 months that I took to get to charging $5,000. So there's a video of us that says I went from charging $0 to $5,000 for strategy. And that was because I took a 6-month break to learn it. And then I came back going, oh my gosh, I've seen the skies and the clouds part and the sun coming through.
I love what you said there about engaging on content as well, because let's be honest, big, medium, small, whatever, all content producers out there are, we're all driven by our egos to some extent. We all like that little hit of dopamine where it's like, people liked my comment, they left a comment.
You're valuable. You're giving again, it's that whole giving value. Like, you want to make sure you're giving value, not just empty things.
Yeah, you don't want to just be putting it out and get dead air back. And so for any content producer, I don't care how big they are, if you're consistently showing up in their community, in their comment section, and engaging in a real way, they will start to notice you. And we talked before on these Hangouts about Rachel, one of our community members. She landed clients like Lauren Hom and Ian Barnard. And actually with Lauren Hom, she initially pitched her, heard nothing back because Lauren gets pitches like that day in, day out, then sent a follow-up and said, by the way, it's me, Rachel, the person who keeps showing up in your comments and engaging all the time. And she went, oh, Rachel. And she hired her on the spot. So it really, really works.
Oh, yeah, it does. It's like we want to work with and hire evangelists, like of our own personal brands too. And I've had people, same thing, like pitch me. And then I realize like, oh, you're the one that,
So we've got another question from Julia that says, how are you determining and or measuring the value that you're creating for your client in order to determine your price? This sounds eerily reminiscent of Dustin grilling you last night.
My gosh. Yeah. So
maybe it's him. Maybe he's just come on, Julia.
It's his alter ego.
Is that you, Dustin?
Yeah. So how do you determine the value that you're creating for your client in order to price what? To
determine your price.
Basically, how can you, Melinda, have the audacity to judge?
Channeling Dustin right now.
Do that, and then when the turnover of a company could be like 500 million, it becomes a lot easier, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there were 2 answers I believe I gave in our chat yesterday with Dustin when he was asking me those questions. First is, if you're concentrating on your client's goal, I would ask first, how big is your client's goal? Are they trying to double revenue? Let's say they're increasing from 1 million to 2 million. They want to double their revenue. Well, and they believe that working with you or someone like you would get them to that goal. Well, then how much makes sense to invest to get them $1 million? So to spend a 10,000 investment to get clarity and focus and a roadmap to get to the ideal client in order for you to double your revenue, or that it would influence you getting to double your revenue.
That seems like a really easy sell in terms of return on investment as well.
Right.
Literally, if you say get your revenue from here to here, and here's a client I've done it with, or here's a few clients, they'd just go, yeah, okay.
Right. And we had talked about yesterday, it's very difficult to measure the ROI of branding because branding influences so many touch points that we can say, hey, since working with X company, they have increased X amount.
Which is really powerful.
We're not saying that we guarantee results. I am guaranteeing a plan. I guarantee the plan. I will show up, I will do the workshop, and I will give you the best possible plan we can do to get you to that goal. I don't guarantee results though, because there's so many variables that go into that. But really it's the plan that will get you to that goal. And it's also the motivation too. I think we had talked about yesterday, the focus and the clarity gives a founder and the C-suite motivation to execute on that plan. And that is so
absolutely
much.
I think Matt and I might start referring to ourselves as the C-suite now. C-suite. We're just going to request, can the team please book a meeting with the C-suite?
He's going to want a mug with that on it now. Like, give my C-suite mug.
I think that's an American thing. Right?
Maybe.
And I think as well as the opportunity for that value, a lot of it is actually the removal of pain that we talked about yesterday, right? Because if you're a company owner or, director or whatever, and things are in a complete mess and it's confusing and arduous and you feel the pain of that every day that you should be doing better, but you're not. And the fear. Just alleviating that without any tangible revenue gain is something of tremendous value.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. And we talked about yesterday too, there was some stat that I read that it was like 64% of people buy services based off personal reasons. Personal. Emotional things. So that's where the focus and clarity comes in. What emotional hurdles can you help your client with by just giving them this clarity and helping them get to the clarity? How much is that worth?
Okay, so Boyan asked the question we've kind of already answered, I think, which is, can you charge for this basically without doing any graphic design work afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah. That was a quick one. Quick answer. That was an easy one for me.
I think we might have time for like one more.
Go on then.
So I'm having a look through right now. Okay, so in fact, I'm going to skip.
The marketing one might be quite good.
That one,
yeah.
That caught my eye as well.
Me too.
So Gally asks, since you're not doing deliverables anymore, how do you market your work? Sites like Dribbble and Behance become less relevant since the work is less visual. So how are you currently getting your clients?
Yeah, great question. There's two different ways I'm currently getting the clients. So one is, like I had said, thought pieces. So the fact that I talk about this all the time, I'm also on a ton of podcasts and shows talking about it. Even though I'm teaching it, I still get clients reaching out to me and saying, hey, if people in your own industry are listening to you and learning from you, you must know what you're talking about. And so I still get clients just because I teach it and I write thought pieces. And I also, I'm also on shows like this and The Future, even being on The Future. So just getting out there and getting known for what you do, talk about it all the time, teach it. Those are ways I get clients. The other way is I have partnered with other agencies. So I'm the brand strategist and they hire me for their client work. So when they get in clients, they will also hire me. So I've networked with a bunch of agencies and I work with friends who own agencies because they will attract it with the eye candy of the design. And then they will sell strategy and then hire me for that. So there's, two different ways that I go about it.
So just to kind of summarize then, it's networking and profile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not a whole lot of selling going on there.
No,
which is really refreshing for people to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more inbound, attracting people.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And, this comes back to like our cornerstones, to be honest. So it's all about the people. You're building up that, incredible network around you. But the profile, you're a great example of someone that's fully leaned into their niche, I would say. And you are probably the person when someone mentions brand strategy, you're top of mind for me, certainly, and I'm sure many others. And that's a really powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Because next time someone says, I need a brand strategist, I'm like, oh yeah, Melinda.
Yeah, you're the leading brand.
Pops in there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I've even had designer friends who probably could have done the strategy, but a client would come to them and they go, no, don't work with me. Go work with Melinda.
Sure.
I'm like, you could have done this. They're like, no, you're the one. You need to do it. And so just even being known in your own industry for something is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Well, speaking of powerful, this has been one of personally my favorite hangouts.
Mine too. You're an inspiration. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, really awesome.
Jonathan just said in the comments, this has been so informative.
For sure.
I really love this. And it's Jonathan's first time at Design Cuts webinar. So seriously, thank you guys.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, Jonathan, and every single other design cutter that's tuned in with us today. You guys mean the world to us. Thank you for being here. And we hope you got as much value as we did. But Melinda, that was
absolutely brilliant.
Amazing.
Thanks, Melinda. Thanks ever so much. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for attending too.
We're actually, where would you like us to link up just before we jump off your website? Or
Yeah, my website and Instagram, probably the two main places I'll be. Yeah.
If we could, there you go. It's in the comments, guys. But I'm going to, who doesn't love a shiny green button? So let me link this up.
Thank you, Ian. So good to see you, Maria.
There we go. Shiny green button below this live stream. Everyone go and check out Melinda's website. And even if, you're not going to personally hire her, if you're actually looking to learn more of this stuff, there's tons of extra information on Melinda's blog. She's putting out all kinds of great thought pieces and resources. So it's well worth heading over there right now, because this is about to end in like 10 seconds. So go over there right now before you lose that link. Thank you everyone for showing up. Melinda,
thanks guys.
We're talking to you soon, and we can't wait to hang out at Creative South.
We'll be there.
I can't wait. Thanks guys. So nice meeting you, Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
See you. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.